Hey Daniel, I got a question for you.
Yeah, Ryan, what's up?
So if you were to wake up tomorrow and you could not speak or understand English, what language would you choose to be fluent in?
That is an excellent question.
Thank you, I thought of it myself.
My mind immediately goes to something like useless and stupid, like some like dead like Latin language or something like that. But that would not serve me very well tomorrow. So I think if your question is posed like tomorrow, this really happened to me, I would want to be able to speak either Spanish or Hmong because those are two languages that people in my community speak, and I would not be completely stuck if I spoke those.
So for those who are listening that don't know what Hmong is, would you care to explain that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Hmong is kind of an Asian culture language. They kind of the Hmong people are originally from like China, but other areas around China as well. So it's not just like specifically Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a quite a presence of the Hmong community in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where I live, and so yeah, it's kind of like um, from what I can tell, as a non-Hmong speaker, like a kind of a cross between like Chinese and Korean and some other kind of Asian influences there. So that would be a cool language to speak.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but especially if I can't understand English, like I would want to be able to talk to people who I know and work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people who speak Hmong. I know some people who speak Spanish. So I would be able to at least communicate to them if that were to happen to me tomorrow.
Absolutely.
What about yourself? What would you choose?
That's a really good question. And I at first I also thought about going with a really stupid nobody speaks this sort of language. Um, so I know you were homeschooled, all right?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you ever watch the show Zoom?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, just making sure that you're a cultured homeschooler. I would. This was my first thought, not what I'm gonna pick, but the Ubby Wubby,
Ubby Dubby.
Ubby Dubby. Thank
Yes.
you, Ubby Dubby
Yes.
language from Zoom.
That is such a good answer.
That one. If you don't know what that is, I can't explain it to you. You just have to look it up on YouTube. There's videos all over the place. But the Ubby Dubby from Zoom was the first thing I thought of. But I think it's not exciting, but I think I would just pick Spanish. Same reason as you, is because there are people in the community that understand that, and I would actually be able to, through a third party, be able to communicate to people that I know. So
Yes.
it's not super exciting. But if I had to pick like what I consider, quote unquote exotic, I may, I don't know, maybe like Portuguese or something. It's close. It's close-ish, but like
Yeah.
Portuguese would be kind of fun.
There was a period, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, where I was trying to teach myself Hebrew.
Oh,
Um, so if I could learn Hebrew, like I would not be able to communicate with anyone because I don't know anyone who speaks any Hebrew. But that would be a language that I would like to learn, but
mm-hmm.
not in the circumstance of like it's the only language I know.
So, getting into today's episode today, Dan, would you do us the honors of presenting us with today's theme?
Today's theme.
Yeah. So this week's theme, we are talking about the idea of zeal. And zeal is, I guess, how would you describe zeal, Ryan? Or what comes to mind when you think of like the word zeal?
Isn't that when you eat a baby cow? Is that zeal? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's it for sure. Got it in one, bud. No, that is veal.
Oh, dang. So
Veal.
close. ZV, they're close on the alphabet.
Those are both those garbage letters that don't really matter. They're just
like,
at the end.
When you get them in Scrabble, you're like, I'm gonna lose. I can't
Right.
use this. This is garbage. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, zeal. I would describe that. So kind of like in last week we talked about courage. Zeal kind of goes along with that. It like when I think of like a battle cry or taking something head on, it's like I have a goal in mind and I am going to accomplish that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's kind of an idea of like some passion
Mm-hmm.
in that. There's, really a strong overriding desire to accomplish something or a belief in, whatever that
Yeah.
you're working towards. and that kind of motivates that. So that's kind of what Zeal is. And as kind of a character example or a study of what this can look like in someone's life, we have another segment of Look at This Guy.
Look at this guy.
Yeah. So this week's Look at This Guy. Last week we talked about a fictional character from one of Ryan and my favorite stories. And this week we're going to talk about a real character from history, specifically from the Bible. And this is my all-time favorite Bible story. So no pressure, but it is, in my opinion, the greatest Bible story ever, because it's everything that like a teenage boy's version of like the Bible is like. This has got all of the gory details. So
absolutely.
It's from everyone's favorite book of the Bible, which is the book of Numbers, of course, obviously.
And everyone just instantly fell asleep.
Numbers gets a bad rap because the first like 6 chapters are just like counts of a census basically. But after that, after that, the book actually gets really good. There's a lot of good stories, a lot of really important lessons and things in there. Specifically, the person that I'm going to be talking about comes from Numbers chapter 25, and it is a man named Phineas. So,
I've seen his show.
Yeah, his brother Ferb.
Yeah, 104 Days of Summer Vacation, right?
Yes, not the same, different Phineas. This is the original Phineas.
Here we go.
That's an imposter, although I would love to do a Look at This Guy on Phineas and Ferb at some point in the future.
We'll save that one.
Love them.
Archive
it. Set this a little bit. So the people of Israel, the Israelites, the 12 tribes, have come out of Egypt from 400 years of being in slavery, and they are now in the wilderness. And they are kind of in the process of entering the promised land or getting ready to enter the land that God has promised to give them. And as part of that, God had specifically told them not to intermarry, not to take on the cultural identities and the religions of the people who were living in the land already, because he wanted them to worship him alone. He wanted them to follow his laws and his rules because he's God. And he knew that if they start marrying the other countries and the other peoples and taking on their cultural practices, basically they're just going to turn away from God and start worshiping idols and doing all sorts of disgusting like human sacrifices and the things that they were doing in these nations. So he's like, don't marry them, stay away. Well, anyone who has read any of the Old Testament might know where this story is going. What do you think the people of Israel did almost immediately?
I think they obeyed and did exactly what God told them to do, because that's the trend that I think we see in the Old Testament, coming from somebody who's never read the Bible. No, yeah, exactly.
Wrong.
No,
the exact opposite.
Immediately goes out and gets himself a wife of one of the other tribes. Well, so Phineas doesn't. Sorry.
Yeah. So some of the Israelites start doing this. They start taking wives from the other nations that they're surrounding them. And God calls together basically the Moses and the leaders and is like, hey, you guys need to kill all the people who are taking like foreign wives. This is not okay. While God is saying this, one of the guys in Israel just parades through the assembly with his foreign wife, like in front of everyone. Like imagine like this is a church service, gets down in front and like in front of everyone takes his foreign wife and like goes back to his tent. Like right after God has said, stop it. This can't happen. This is not what I want. This guy is just in clear disobedience of what God has said, scorning him. So Phineas, who is a priest, who was one of the people who was kind of responsible for worshiping God and representing the people to God and God to the people. Phineas sees this, and he is the Bible says he is so filled with, depending on translation, it's either the word zeal or it's the word jealousy. And we're going to talk about like why those two words are not totally different, but he gets so filled with the zeal that he takes a spear He goes into the guy's tent where he has just taken his wife that he's not supposed to be not supposed to have, and he pins them both through with a spear. Like one spear thrust just skewers them both. Now, it is at this point that I'm contractually required to tell anyone listening, the Assemblymen Podcast does not condone murdering people. Please do not murder anyone with a spear.
Yeah, with a spear specifically.
Yes. So now this is like shocking, right? Like he just went through and like skewered them. But then it's really interesting because God responds. Like the next thing that happens is God responds. And first of all, God had sent a plague among the people of Israel. So he was so like fed up with them not listening to him that he had just sent this plague that was killing thousands of people. And as soon as Phinehas kills this guy, the plague stops. And then God says, Phinehas, the priest, has turned away my wrath from the sons of Israel because he was jealous with my jealousy, or he was zealous with my zeal, so that I did not destroy the sons of Israel. Therefore, I give him a covenant of perpetual peace and priesthood. He will always have someone from his family will always be ministering before me as a priest. I am so happy with what he did. Mm-hmm. And you look at this, if you're not super familiar with the Bible, or if you're kind of familiar with the Bible, you look at this and you're like, what the heck just happened?
Even if you are familiar with the Bible, you still go, oh, like, okay, this is still what? Okay.
Yeah, it blows your mind because you're like, wait, isn't one of the 10 commandments like you shall not covet, like you shouldn't be jealous? And here God is basically saying,
or murder.
Yeah, you're not supposed to murder and you're not supposed to be jealous. So Phinehas just broke 2 of the 10 commandments. And God's like, great job. Proud of you. What is happening? And so that's where it's really, again, that idea of jealousy and zeal being so close together. Like Ryan and I talked about, zeal is really when you're passionate about something. Mm-hmm. And you just firmly believe in this. And the passion itself isn't inherently good or bad. It is what you're passionate about. What are you trying to accomplish? And in this case, God specifically says, you were jealous with my jealousy, or you were zealous with my zeal. Basically, Phinehas wanted what God wanted. And he wanted it so much that it spurred him to action. Now, Phinehas could have been zealous with the wrong kind of zeal. Later on in the Bible, in some of Paul's letters that he writes in the New Testament, he talks about it's fine to be zealous as long as the purpose is good.
Mm-hmm. Like, well, that's the guy who paraded his wife in front of the assembly. He was zealous, but in the direction of getting himself a wife and being completely disobedient, but doing it in a way that he was proud.
Yeah. So he was flaunting the wrong thing.
Right.
And Phinehas's reaction, it was extreme and gory and graphic, but he was so passionate about what God had said that he was willing to act on that by any means necessary. Mm-hmm. And so, when I was growing up, this story fascinated me because I was like, wait, I thought it wasn't okay to be jealous. Like God says, don't covet, don't be jealous, in one of the 10 commandments. But when he says don't covet, he specifically says, like, don't covet your neighbor's something. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet your neighbor's house. Don't want something that isn't yours. But it's okay to want something that is yours or that is right. If I want what God wants, if I want what is mine, that's okay. But if I want what someone else is to the point that I'm going to act on it to take it from them, that's when it becomes not an okay thing. Mm-hmm. So, zeal is a totally fine thing. Obviously, it's something that God commends Phinehas for, but you have to be kind of careful to make sure that you're not just passionately doing the wrong thing. You have to make sure that your motives and the purpose that you're passionate about is the right thing.
And again, we do not condone murder. I hate using this word because it sets up the idea that we're so much smarter than the people before us, but like it's true. Like the form of like quote unquote government and leadership was a little bit more primitive. That's the word I hate, is the word primitive. But like it was a lot more lenient when it when it came to the idea of like death and all this stuff. So we're not at that place culturally at all. So it's not something for us to be going pinning people to the ground with spears.
Exactly, especially because literally a few verses before Phineas does that, God has said like, "Hey, you need to kill the people who are doing this."
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, no one else in Israel was taking that seriously. So if the command we have from God is to be holy because I am holy, or whatever God has commanded us, or whatever the command that we have is, that's the thing that we should be zealous about.
Right.
Whatever is right, whatever we believe is the right thing to do, is morally right, is true, and the things in pursuit of that truth, that's what the zeal should be motivated by.
Mm-hmm. And now a word from our sponsors.
Dad Joke Corner.
Hey Ryan, what did the pirate say on his 80th birthday?
I don't know. What did he say?
Aye, matey.
I was not expecting that one. That was a good one. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, Ryan.
Did you hear about the cheese factory in France that exploded?
No, I didn't.
They found nothing but cheese debris.
Oh, that's so stupid.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Oh, this has been Dad Joke Corner.
Preparing you for the future.
All right. So we have a new segment to introduce. I know, second episode in and we're already changing things up on you. Don't worry. It's this one we're going to be going back and forth between this and our great debates of history. But this segment is all
here's
about.
Why you're wrong.
I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, we're going to be switching between this one and the "Here's Why You're Wrong" segment. But in this segment that we're about to introduce, we are concerned with your future, the path that you're walking, and any sort of question that you have. We are here to enlighten you on. You can ask us anything. Write us into our email. Send us a message on Facebook. However you want to reach us, ask us a question, and we will be here with the correct answer to guide you into whatever whatever the right path is for your life. You can trust it 100%. Welcome to
Guidance Counselors.
So Ryan, we got a question this week for our podcast here. I'm going to read it here, and then we can provide some, I think, insightful and correct advice for this person.
Absolutely.
So the question reads as this: Dear guidance counselors, I am currently single. It seems like I've tried everything, but despite my best efforts, I can't find anyone willing to date me. It's getting to the point where I have trouble enjoying my usual hobbies and activities because I feel like I'm missing out by not having someone to share them with. Any advice? Now, I don't know about you, Ryan. Actually, I do know about you.
You did just a little.
But I can currently relate to this this question because for anyone in our audience, I am currently single as well, and I have certainly been in the same position as this question asker, and can completely relate to that. Ryan, I don't know. Do you feel like you've been in the same boat?
I have definitely been in the same boat, though currently I am not. I am married, for those of you who are listening. I'm married to a wonderful woman, so my perspective might be a little bit different, which is why I think this segment works so well, is that you have two different perspectives, but they both are going to be absolutely 100% correct. No refunds. We put the fun in no refunds. But yeah, so when it comes to advice, would you like to start off, or should I?
Yeah. I mean, I guess my first thing that I would say is, again, I think pretty much every guy has been in this situation. Maybe not just every guy, like every person probably has been in this situation to some extent of feeling like you're missing out by not being in a relationship. And it can get to the point where it's really easy to start obsessing about being in a relationship. And, you start by thinking, well, maybe if I just tried harder, or maybe if I was more proactive, and you start, it starts being the thing that is really guiding your every action and every thought is, am I in a relationship? How can I be in a relationship? Do I need to just look for more people who might want to be in a relationship with me? And it can really be something that it's easy to obsess about. And almost to tie back into the theme of the episode, to get zealous about, where I am so passionate about being in a relationship that's the thing that's motivating everything that I'm doing. And I would say from personal experience, that's not a healthy place to be. Like, obviously being in a relationship is great. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's also nothing wrong with not being in a relationship. Right. And before you can be happy in a relationship, I think you have to be pretty content not being in a relationship. That you need to be okay with who you are, because if you're just always looking for someone else to fix you, that's never going to happen. At least in my experience, I have never been in a relationship with someone who immediately fixed all of the problems that I had in my life before that. Yeah.
I know that back in like high school and stuff, I felt very down about my relationship status, and thought to myself on multiple occasions, what's wrong with me? Why are people not interested? I don't think I'm that ugly, but I guess.
Well, Ryan,
I hate to break it to you. hey, we all know it's the truth. But anyway, so but yeah, I remember thinking that so many times. But I also later on in life, I had a conversation with somebody who was actually asking a very similar question, and my perspective had changed enough to think about it as like running for a goal. We've talked about stuff in scripture. So the Apostle Paul talked about, I run the race to get the prize, and a lot of things we do involve goals, and that's how I'm approaching this. Is that like when I am, putting out my resume, my goal is to get a job, and my goal is to get money. Right now, my goal is to pay off some debt. We all have goals, or at least we should, that we are striving towards to move us forward. If your goal, if the thing that you are, like you were saying, zealous for, if your goal that is to have a relationship, once you actually accomplish that, you've crossed the finish line. There's nowhere else to go. And when that happens, things become stale. I see this all the time in relationships, is that like when somebody who isn't thinking beyond that finally gets into a relationship with somebody, it lasts for a little while, and then it's done. And then they break up, and then they go on and find somebody else. And then they go and go and go and go. And there's like 5, 6, 7 relationships that happen in the course of 2 years. And it's like, bro, what are you doing? Don't you see there's a common denominator here? And it's you. You're the one who is doing this. And so my advice is, your goal needs to be something higher than just getting a relationship with somebody. Right now, I can speak for my wife Kara and I, that before we ever got married, the goal was to be an example of Christ in the lives of people around us, to be an example of the relationship between Christ and the church. And we had talked about that in detail about how we would do that, how we would conduct ourselves, and that our relationship, our marriage, was for a higher purpose and not just for our own entertainment. And how we would approach that in me being a youth pastor and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm not saying you have to be a minister or whatever for anybody who's listening, but your goal needs to be something higher than that. And you need to look at yourself and be like, okay, am I working on being a person who is worth dating? Because if I'm not working on myself, if I'm not looking inward and trying to change some things in my character and continually progressing toward holiness and just plain on being better, I'm not going to be that person. And maybe that's where it starts.
Right. Yeah. Because whatever your focus is, that's going to shape your priorities, whatever that goal is. And so if that goal is, I am just passionate about, I'm zealous about being in a relationship, then basically what you're saying is like, that's the most important thing to me. And all of my other priorities are going to shape around that. And, you know, it's really easy then to kind of lose sight of what's actually important. You know, serving God and being as good of a person as you can and all of that stuff. And then to start making choices that are not the correct choice because you're so focused on the tunnel vision of, I need to be in a relationship. And so that can turn into, you start that pattern, like Ryan was saying, of dating the wrong people, because those are the people who it's easiest to be in a relationship with, because you're so focused on, I just need that relationship.
Right.
It's, again, like, that's great, but it should not be the most important thing to you.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with actually looking for a relationship, but when it becomes your highest priority, exactly. I can tell you, this is anecdotal, but I found my relationship with my wife when I stopped looking. It was when I stopped making that my highest priority that I actually found somebody who wanted to be with me. And I think it was because of the over the course of time, I had become comfortable with who I was and the gifts and talents that I had and were pouring into refining in my own life, that gave me the confidence and gave me the look of like, oh, this guy actually, he knows what he's doing in his life, and I like that. But that's just my story. So yeah,
I would echo that and say, it's really find something that is worth being passionate about, something that really, gives you that purpose that's bigger than just a relationship. And then either one of two things will happen. Either one, you will find someone who is a great person to be in a relationship with, because they will be drawn to the sort of person you become. Or number two, it won't matter as much. And you will, because you're so focused on the other things that are really important, that even if you don't end up in a relationship, that's totally fine, because you have found that thing that gives you that purpose, that makes you excited, that gives you the ability to be zealous for something. And either one of those, I think, is a much healthier place to be than just super focused on, one small aspect of your life.
And you can take that advice to the bank.
Or the credit union.
That too. Yeah, it's great. however you want to go about your finances. I don't care. All right, moving on. We got another segment to do. So, as a matter of fact, we are going to be jumping into another
Debates from the Annals of History.
Last week was a resounding success. What a banger we had last week on
it was
whether a hot dog is a sandwich or not.
And I didn't get the final counts on what our audience thought, but I'm pretty sure they sided with me. I'm going to chalk that down as a win.
See, the thing about that is there weren't any responses I saw that actually confirmed that you won, and so therefore I think I'm the winner of that, even though I accidentally said panini instead of euro. So if you listen back to that, I totally misspoke and did not mean panini. I'm just going to retcon that whole part of the argument, and I meant to say euro. So moving on.
Euro, which is also not a sandwich.
Okay.
Moving on.
Neither here or there. No. So today we have a very difficult argument that we're going to be getting in, and it is, if you drop a bar of soap on the ground, does the soap get dirty or does the ground get clean?
And Ryan, since you've posed this question, what side of the debate are you coming down on? Wrong side of the debate are you coming down on?
Yeah, no, the right side, definitely. I'm actually going to be saying that the soap gets dirty.
Okay, and would you care to explain that?
Okay, so it's very simple. If you drop soap on the ground, anybody who's done this, if you drop soap in the dirt, it gets dirt on it because it's sticky. It gets dirt and little rocks and a bunch of gross stuff on it. I'm not gonna take that and rub it on my body. I'm gonna argue anecdotally at first. Anybody who does this, they will wash it off. They're going to put it under a faucet and they're going to wash the dirt off the soap before they actually use it to scrub themselves in the shower, because it is in fact dirty, and that's why you're cleaning it off.
See, that's a great anecdotal story that you told there, Ryan. Here's the problem with that. People in the 21st century love to exfoliate. And what is exfoliating except rubbing little particles of dirt all over your body to really break up the junk and the gunk that's on your skin? So I would argue, first of all, that if you do drop soap in the dirt, that's just free exfoliant that you can use. And you can use it because the dirt that is stuck to the soap is clean. Why? Because it came in contact with soap. Is it dirt? Yes. Is it dirty? No, because the soap has cleaned it, and now it's just free little exfoliants that's on your bar of soap that you can use to get super duper clean, because this is the 21st century and we've moved past this.
Oh man, what a creative argument. I wish the audience could see how far my eyes rolled back into the back of my head. So first of all, exfoliant is not just dirt, okay? I want to get this out of the way.
Fact checker. I need a fact checker on that.
I do not use it myself. However, I do have experience with it because I am in fact married, and so I know what this stuff looks like. It's not dirt. It's refined minerals. It's not like they go out and
refined minerals like dirt that was cleaned is what you just said.
Yeah, but you just said the dirt was cleaned. Yeah, exactly. But hold on.
Refined, whatever your word is.
Nobody goes out into the backyard and takes a shovel full of dirt and scoops it into a 5-gallon pail, and they're like, "Here's my exfoliant," as they're putting a bunch of water in the bucket.
Because they're scared, Ryan. They're scared.
It's because the dirt is nasty, and when you drop the soap on it, like soap, some people say like soap is self-cleaning, whatever. But like when you drop it in the dirt, if you're using that to then scrub yourselves, the soap then isn't touching you. Like if the whole bottom of the bar of soap drops in the dirt, then you take it and you put it on yourself, you're coming in contact with the dirt that's there, right? You're scrubbing it into your body, whatever rocks and stuff. You don't know what's in there, and you don't know if the soap has had enough time to actually do its job. But regardless of the fact, it's not usable to scrub yourself with. You're gonna scrape yourself up. If it's not gonna like get a bunch of junk and germs on you, you're at least gonna scrape yourself up with all the rocks. But you have no guarantee that whatever is on that bar of soap is actually gonna be cleaned off. That's why you rinse it under the water, get all the soap out of there, or just throw away the bar of soap and get a new one, because it is dirty. Ryan, by all accounts.
Ryan, that is, first of all, wasteful that you would waste a perfectly good bar of soap.
It's not good anymore.
Okay, I know I mentioned the 21st century and how we love exfoliants now. Mm-hmm. I think we also should go back to the previous times when people would fix things instead of just throwing them away and discarding them when they got a little bit messy. When kids would play out in the dirt all day and in the hot sun and everything was fine and no one died of whatever diseases except maybe polio. But my point is,
yeah, what is your point?
Yeah, you're going to have the dirt on you, but that's fine because there is, first of all, the dirt has been cleaned by soap. So it's not germy. It's dirty, yeah, because that's what dirt is. It's dirt. But it's not like germy. It's not bad because the soap has disinfected it.
Are you sure about that? Because I'm arguing that we have no guarantee that that's the truth.
I think if you can say anecdotally that this is what people are going to do, I can say anecdotally that it's fine. Science is on my side. Fact
okay, fine. Closing arguments.
Yeah.
Closing arguments.
So I would say, yes, you can use the soap that is in the dirt because the dirt is cleaned in contact with the soap. And even if you're scrubbing yourself with it, like even if you get that dirt on you, if you keep scrubbing, you're going to get soap on you. So even if you are worried that like, oh, the dirt might be, it's dirt. Yeah, but the soap's going to wash it off and you've just exfoliated yourself. And we need to stop being so wasteful in this country and in this world. And that is my...
Yeah, great. My closing argument is, by the very definition of dirty, if there's dirt on the soap, it is in fact dirty. Nobody's scrubbing themselves with soap that has a bunch of dirt particles in it, Dan. No matter how you argue this, I'm right, you're wrong. End of story.
Closing argument. People brush their teeth with charcoal. So
those are the same ones who will just exfoliate with any random dirt in their backyard.
All right, so clearly this is a deadlock. There's no way of settling this. We once again turn to you, the audience, to help settle this. Send us your thoughts, your comments at our email address, our Facebook page, or in the comments of wherever you listen to this podcast. Let us know what you think. Who won? Is soap dirty? Is dirt clean? Is a hot dog a sandwich? Any other future debates that you'd like to have us debate here on the show, or any other thoughts?
Our email, so our contact information, our email is theassemblymenpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to send us an email, you can also find us at the Assemblymen Podcast on Facebook, and we are on Podbean and on SoundCloud right now. So if you like what you hear, share it with your friends, and we encourage you to get the word out, because that's how we're going to keep this thing going. And if you like what we're doing here, please help us to be able to do that more, because we really like it. We think it's worth sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have enjoyed this, let us know. If you want to be a guest judge on a future episode, we are still looking for people to do that. As well as if you have questions for the guidance counselors, send those our way. Really, any comments, absolutely, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, we encourage any involvement that you have to throw our way. Thank you so much for listening. Any takeaways from today's episode that you want to make sure that we remember?
Yeah, so be zealous, but also be level-headed. First takeaway. And then second takeaway, people do weird things with dirt and
make sure your priorities are in order, and I hope those priorities do not include rubbing your teeth with charcoal. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.